work night shift.
Are you ready? Call meeting to order, Public Work and Utility Committee. And I'd like to welcome our guests. I think we have two of them today. And also, please roll call.
Zagami,
Here.
Ermeling,
Here.
Hubbard,
Here.
Lopez, Serrao.
Here.
Hope I didn't butcher that too bad.
Oh, it's fine.
Bumper,
Here.
And there's nobody online.
So we're missing one.
Nope, everybody's here.
You all right? You good?
Yep, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, item 4, public comment. We have Sheridan?
Yes. Hi.
Okay, please come to the podium
All right,
and state your name and your address for a record,
All right, my name
and you
is,
can explain.
okay,
Go ahead.
my name is Sheridan Grana. Our address is 9507 Camp Phillips Road in Weston. So we are here over our stormwater bill. We received it in the mail like we always do, and I sent a check like I always do on February 28th. I then received my check with our stub back in the mail, postmarked on March 22nd. And then I received a letter saying that we were being fined $25 for not paying our stormwater. So I then called and asked what the issue was. And she said that it had been marked for auto pay and they had highlighted that on the pay stub. But I mailed the check because we had closed that banking account when we merged our finances. So obviously they couldn't pull it out of that account if it was through that account. And since March of 2022, so for the last 3 stormwater bills, I have paid with checks that I have this carbon copies for, as well as the banking stuff through my bank, the screenshots that the check did go through and that they were there. The funds were in the account, they just chose not to use the check, and now they want to fine us $25 for us not paying the bill, which I sent a check a month in advance for.
Okay. Michael?
I guess, yeah, we follow up with the utility clerk. Well, I guess we don't have a utility clerk right now, so between, I guess Sarah and Pam, we'll probably look at it. I mean, it makes sense if you send the check in that you shouldn't be getting the late fee.
Yeah, so I spoke with Pam and she still thinks that we should get the fee and that I needed to come talk to all of you about it.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to explain it more, and I have all of the stuff here tabbed if anybody would like to look at it.
Well, I guess Pam did talk to me about it, and I guess clarification would be, was the auto pay and the check coming out of the same accounts?
No,
So the
this
check,
was our new check, which
Okay.
I had been paying since March of 2022. So for the last 3 checks, I went back and found the pay stubs, as well as my banking information saying that they did use my check,
okay,
not an auto pay. So for the last year, over a year, the last 3 times that we've paid it, they've used my check and not the auto pay. So I sent another check like I always do because that account is no longer existing.
okay. I guess it was, I think Pam is maybe understanding that it was, the auto pay was coming out of the same place that the check would have been, so she returned the check, which then caused the late fee, so.
No.
Yeah, I think it can probably be rectified with.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, we can have Pam.
could you give a copy of your checks?
Yeah, I would be happy to leave all of this, a copy of,
And then I'm sure they take care of it.
okay. Who would I leave a copy of it with?
I had to actually.
Give it to the clerk. There.
Yep, and then here is the other one. So that was the December one, and this is the one, that's this check that reflects that. And I can also email somebody my bank statements that it got pulled from.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. All right, why don't you send me that stuff? I will talk when I talk to them. Do you want me to take this or do you want to?
I mean, I wanna pay the $12.50.
Okay,
So I don't know who I leave that with and then,
I can receipt it for you.
Okay.
And give you a receipt and then mail. Okay,
thank you.
all right.
Sounds good.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5, approval of 3/30/23 Public Work Utility Committee meeting. I accept the motion to approve it.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Item 6, CIP update. Michael?
Try to touch on the high points here. We have a couple items in the packet regarding Weston Avenue from Ryan to Jay. We had bid openings last week on that project. And also looking at having a special assessment hearing at the end of the month. So I guess that one right now is scheduled for April 26th, that Wednesday. That works for everybody.
Is that hearing is for what? For
Water and sewer assessments.
on Weston Avenue?
Weston Avenue, yep.
Okay. How many people are you serving in there? There shouldn't be that many.
There's actually only 3 that would be getting directly connected.
Okay.
I'm gonna be in Madison till 5 that day, so I
Sure.
probably wouldn't be back by 6.
Okay.
So the hearing is over here or
Could be
across?
here, yeah.
Here?
Yep, yeah, this would be just for our project.
Okay.
Boucher,
Yes.
I was just wondering, are there any really long hookups? I mean, of the 3, are there anybody that's long?
I guess what would you consider long? I mean,
Five-figure digit,
like as far as distance off the road?
like money?
So all the assessments are based on a per connection fee, which is what we've been doing for our, I guess, kind of filling in the gaps of the system. It's what we used on Apache, Birch Street, and now Weston Avenue. So it breaks down all corridors into a maximum 200-foot frontage. So even if you own a half mile of frontage, if you have one house on there right now, you're only being assessed on a connection based on 200 linear feet of frontage.
But I mean, we're asking them to connect up, I mean, are we talking a quarter mile or a half a mile driveway?
I don't think anybody's got more than a quarter mile, definitely not. Some people might have a couple hundred feet. But
That was my concern.
yeah, I mean, the one house is by the driving range, which will have a 20-foot connection. The other one is at business right at Jones and Weston Avenue. And the other house is a little west of Zinzer Street, a little back on the south side, but so actually 4. There's a 4th one over by Jay, that house across from like Country Fresh Meats' driveway. And then for anyone who owns just the land right now without an improvement, they'd still get notified of the hearing and the potential for them to connect in the future.
Okay.
So there's, excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
There's a parcel of land. You just spoke of the house that's right across from Country Fresh Meats.
Yep.
Okay, but there's a parcel that's between that house and Jay on the
Yep.
south side. I don't believe it's owned by the people that have that house.
No, it's a separate landowner.
Exactly.
Yep.
But it's a relative.
Okay.
So are they gonna get an assessment then?
They would have it's considered a deferred assessment. So if they ever choose to build on that lot and connect to water and sewer, they would have the same assessment as the person who would connect this year.
The bottom line is they're gonna get an assessment.
They'll get an assessment. And if they never build on that lot, there's never an improvement.
What I think is gonna happen is it's gonna get, when she dies, it's just gonna get given to them.
Okay.
But, okay, thank you.
All right, continue, please.
All right, and then we did have, there was a public information meeting, March 29th at the Village of Rothschild for the Alderson to Birch Street project. The main topic of discussion was the roundabout at Alderson and Weston Ave, which I think seemed to be accepted by the people in attendance there. Tom was there. I don't know if you've got any other feedback, but you know, based on the traffic flow and, you know, even just the, you know, it's a compact roundabout or a mini roundabout, so it has a lesser footprint. It's all mountable in the middle. There won't be any plantings or anything like that. So it is made to fit into tighter residential areas. Northwestern Avenue, got a tentative schedule that did start the week
Excuse me,
of,
Michael.
sorry.
Did they have a layout for that roundabout?
Yeah, I can send that to you if you want that.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send it to the whole committee. I apologize there. Where was it? Northwestern Ave, will be getting started about middle of May and should be wrapped up by early June. American Asphalt's the general contractor on that, and their plan really is on a Monday to pulverize the road, have the first layer of asphalt down by like Wednesday, Thursday, with then the final layer by that Friday or Saturday. So really within that 1 week, the road should be pulverized, regraded, and repaved.
Close the road for good for that area, except the local people?
Yeah, probably local traffic only.
Okay.
I guess I got a bunch of RFPs to get out this month. And that's probably the highlights of what I have right now.
Okay. Any question for Michael?
Oh, I did include this kind of street maintenance budget. I realized I forgot to put any text or with it. We'll talk about this with the other bid openings, but at the end of the day, the main item is that with all bids in and what we're expecting, we still have about $1,671 of that budget in contingency, I guess, or unallocated. So with all the street maintenance bids that we opened last week, we pretty much came in right where we were expecting. So.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm done.
We're happy Spring's here, hopefully stays. Basically, if you look at what I've done, we've been doing the same thing other than plowing snow. So we're trying to keep up patching. It's been a bummer. The seal coated roads, it's been terrible this year. This winter was so hard on them. So for right now, it's basically we're getting our street sweeping going. It's been warm enough for that. We're patching, trying to keep up. American Asphalt's going to fire plant 22 next week, Monday, I think the 17th they said. So we're going to try and get some hot mix in the hot box and catch some of the bigger ones with that. It'll be surface mix instead of fines, but we can still patch with it. Trying to get some woody vegetation management done, meaning brushing in the right of ways, but now with the snow melting, it's pretty wet, but we've got plenty of other things to do. People they're starting to use Ryan Street, the recycling center. We sold the rest of the compost. Randy Warden bought everything we had, other than we have a huge pile, well, a pretty good sized pile of stuff that was ground compost from before I started here. So it's at least 4 years old. That's what we use to mix with our topsoil. When we screen topsoil, we get to 4 to 6% organics in it. So it's kind of nice having it cleaned. What's going to help us by not having rows of compost is we don't have to be committed to turning them over and taking temperatures, soil testing on it for temperatures. That's what the DNR requires. So it worked out pretty good. Sue's Ginseng bought all of our leaves last fall at $1 a cubic yard. I don't know if it was like $3-4 grand or something for that. His bill for all the compost he bought from us from after the first of the year was $8,000. So we're making money, getting somewhat of a return on it, which is kind of nice, you know. We'll still have some compost to offer for the residents if they want to come with a shovel and some pails and get what they need. So that's kind of taking care of things. I was down on East Nick Road today, looking at it. It isn't starting to bubble mud anywhere yet, which is a good thing. Been in talks with Cronenwetter about what we're gonna do if we have to do something this year. Stephen, I always want to say Stephen Tyler, but it's Stephen Groshek is talking about possibly building a house this fall. And after talking with him and with Cronenwetter, if we do end up doing anything on East Nick, we're gonna document the soft spots this spring, and there's really only one before his place. So we're not gonna end up doing like we did last year where we have to rebuild like a half a mile of road. We're just gonna take care of the soft spot that's there, undercut it, put some breaker in and make it so the road's passable year round. We are gonna have to add one cross culvert in the mix too, which will be a cost share with Cronenwetter, just like all the project is. So that kind of takes care of that. I did include pictures in here of the roads. This is my bigger concern, and then we can go back. Eau Claire Avenue, here's some pictures of that. What's the one in the hollow down off Alderson, Michael, there when you go down to the north? And
Mallard Court?
Mallard Court, I was down in that subdivision today. What we're finding is the roads that were seal coated, and the pavement is 15 years old. This winter, that moisture, the warm weather and all the moisture we had is just raising Cain with them. It's called stripping. I was actually on the state of Minnesota. They have a local roads program there, and they have a website, and they talk about stripping. And I emailed the Federal Highway Administration and been talking with one of their engineers a little bit about it too. And it's a problem. What happens is the moisture gets trapped below the seal coat. The Federal Highway is saying that some of it's coming up from the base underneath the road. And when it gets trapped in that asphalt and the freeze-thaw cycles, it'll just disintegrate underneath the seal coat. And there is no good fix for it other than probably an asphalt overlay. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that we've got a milling head on our skid steer. If you look at this picture there, you'll see on the right, that was last year where it stripped some in the wheel track. We milled it out and used fines and paved it. Some of these roads are getting to the point where, I mean, we're gonna Band-Aid them together. I talked about this at the last meeting. It's gonna be a challenge this summer, and then to figure out where we're going. We're not doing any chip sealing this year. Michael and I talked about it, and it's kind of like throwing money at something that you don't know what's gonna happen down the line. So in the talks down the line, I guess, be nice if they could send us some more money so we could do some more asphalt overlays. I did talk to the city of Wausau. They bought a brand new paver last year before. Some of these areas maybe might look at paver patching in conjunction with them. They can't spend the whole summer with us, and we don't have the money to do the whole summer, but the idea is if they send a paver and a couple operators, I think I talked about this maybe before with you guys too. We can use our own staff to try and save money and do some paver patching over some of these areas. So it's just something to keep on the horizon. I mean, these roads, this winter was terrible. The amount of moisture that we got, it was so wet, and then it's the warmth, the freeze-thaw cycles, and there's just not a good fix to it. So, any questions?
Yeah. The bridge over the Little Eau Claire River, is what happened to that resurfaced?
No, the problem with that bridge, where the epoxy overlay's letting loose, that you can see the patches where they epoxied over it. That's a common thing on bridges that are not rough tined. I talked to Tom Hardinger. He's been bridge supervisor with DOT for probably almost 30 years. Before, when they were fixing the bridge, Tom stopped out there and we talked about it. The same thing happened on the Eau Claire River Bridge by the dam down there in Schofield. When the decks aren't rough enough, it doesn't have the adhesion. After a while, some of it might be from moisture getting under there, Roy, that could be a part of it too, but it'll delaminate like that, off of it. The fix is basically, I was gonna talk to Marathon County, because when I was there, we were epoxying patches like that on some of the decks. So I gotta talk to Randy, their bridge supervisor over there once, and see if they've got some places they're gonna be patching. Maybe we can partner with them. Basically, what you'll end up doing is shot blasting it. And it's kind of a physical thing, the way you do the patching. You mix a 2-part epoxy in a big plastic tub, spread it out over it, and then they had a broadcaster for broadcasting the aggregate, which Kafka makes the aggregate. So we'll see how bad it is and then determine whether it's something that we can work with them to try and save some money on and do, or Norcon does that, But it's the smoothness of the deck, that's the problem. You know, if it was a rough tying deck, it would probably adhere better and you wouldn't have that problem.
Okay.
If you could, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask you to back up and I'll run through I just did a report for winter maintenance. It's some pretty big numbers if you look at what we spent this winter, but the one thing that's a little deceiving on it, or maybe not deceiving, but I want to clarify this. The regular hours worked and the overtime hours worked, those are actual cost. The salt is an actual cost, the sand is an actual cost. When you go to the equipment cost, and that's where the numbers can get pretty high, we use the Wisconsin DOT average hourly cost for a piece of equipment. They average all 72 counties. They gather all the information from every county, which includes the cost to purchase it, the depreciation, everything that goes into that piece of equipment, from the mechanics fixing it to the fuel and everything. And they come up with an hourly rate for all the different classifications. And that's what I use to determine these costs. So it's probably the fairest way to go at it. You know, if we had a full-time accountant that just could focus everything on what it costs for us to do all that on a truck, and maybe tighten the numbers up more, but it's a ballpark figure, you know, as best as we can get.
So where's the money goes?
Pardon?
Did you get paid on those, right?
We get paid by the town on this portion down here.
Mm-hmm.
So the town pays us that, 79,000.
Right. So what we do with it?
So that goes back to, I guess it's one of those intergovernmental revenues that we get. So we budget a certain amount of revenue, and then I believe anything over what we budget, then Jessica puts that towards our CIP for equipment.
See, where I'm going with that is, we have an account, we put them in there, so when we buy a new machine, we can use that account money?
Correct, yeah, so we do budget that there's a certain amount of expense, because we do pay our employees when we're in the town.
Yeah.
So once we offset our employee cost, then the remaining revenue does go towards our equipment fund.
Okay,
We use the DOT numbers for billing the town.
yep,
Okay, just like Marathon County, that's what the state pays them for the equipment. It's outstanding. That's all I've got.
okay,
Shane?
yes. I'm sorry, I can't see you, you're hiding behind the podium.
I know, but
I apologize.
I got a hand, I can raise it.
There we go.
I was just gonna ask Dan, is the village planning on coming around and doing the spring, like clean up with cause I mean, there's a ton of branches all over the village after the winter. Everybody had trees with branches ripping down and just a big mess, so.
I'm waiting to hear from Marathon County when they've got an idea and they're pulling weight limits. Typically, it was the first or second week in May, and it'll be that again. But I just want to see, there was only 3 feet of frost in the roads this winter. And I normally get frost reports every week from Paul Schilling. He's the supervisor out at Stratford Shop for Marathon County. But he was off last week making maple syrup. So nobody sent me that. And I had left a message on Griesbach's phone, on Jimmy's phone.
I mean, if people if they got a pickup or a trailer, they can still take it out to.
There were people there today. They can drag it out there. We are still gonna make 1 week. We make 1 round through each zone.
Yep. And Ryan Street is open if somebody wants to drop it off.
Yeah, they can drop it out there.
Yeah, okay, because, I just been getting a few questions about that, and I wanted to make sure I understood correctly.
Hopefully before the end of the week, I get some sort of feeling out of them on when they're gonna pull weight limits, and we'll get then it'll be broadcast when we're gonna be, the exact date where we're gonna start.
Okay.
The only thing, if people are raking their lawns and that, and you talk to anybody or see them out there, ask them to please not rake it into the gutter line if they've got curb and gutter. Keep it up on the boulevard. Otherwise, it washes into the storm sewer, so
Yeah, there's no curb and gutter in my subdivision.
you're good to go.
Well, he usually come with his brush and vacuum it and clean it up.
Yeah, it's just that some of them will get, when it gets this warm, they'll be out there raking this weekend and they rake it into the gutter line, all that grass clippings and that, and then it packs down really hard and it's hard for them things to suck it up. Or the other thing is don't mix the brush or sticks in with the leaves, because then the guy's got to stop, get out of the truck and clean the tube out because it'll plug everything up, so.
All right. Anything else? Item 8, utility operation update.
Yeah, we're working through a few well issues that we're having to take care of here in the upcoming weeks. We got well one over Alta Verde, some bearing issue that's hoping to get worked on here this week, maybe next. They're gonna be in town to potentially do some other work, so hopefully we can piggyback that with some other stuff they wanna do at well four, which we recently had rehabbed and back online. So well four was the one that was shut down, now the temporary treatment was up,
Right.
I think a month today. We got our results back, which were non-detects again for PFAS, so having well four back online to the distribution system, as you can see later in the report, it's helped take some stress off of well 1, 5, and 6. It's been able to reduce their usage quite a bit over the last month, so.
What's the iron, how much is the iron and manganese that, well, for?
Well 4 is basically nothing. Well 3, yeah, well,
Minute, huh?
yeah, I don't know if we had that on our sample report. We had our first round of DNR compliant PFAS samples. I don't know if that was collected on it, but it's low. It's very low for iron and manganese at well 4, unlike well 3.
Okay.
Yeah, iron is 0 and manganese is essentially 0, I guess. So 0.00, what would that be? One part per million, part per billion?
Very low. So well 4 is back on. We have the guy's been able to take care of some miscellaneous well repairs, touching up some of the pipe painting they need to do. Had to replace a few struts on a couple of the wells that supports our pipes. Well 2, I received a couple of proposals.
Yeah, I just caught it.
For our carry well. The capacity's been reducing quite significantly over the last couple months, so we're trying to weigh the options of doing a quick clean now, and then there's a plant shutdown that Carrie has later in August that could save us some money, that we don't have to switch and use Rothschild's water quite as much. So I have a chat with Carrie later this week to kind of get an idea of what a plant shutdown over there actually is. If it's actually shut down or they have some use, to kind of determine if we should do this kind of temporary rehab now to get us some capacity to get us through the summer. Because our tower has been, sometimes when they start juicing it up over there, our tower gets pretty low that we've had to make some calls. So we want to see if we can get our capacity up a little bit, and but at the same time, if it's 2 shutdowns where, you know, we might have to be on Rothschild's water, this might not be cost effective, so we may just do a rehab and pump replacement stuff here in the near term. So I'm reviewing that, and we'll chat with Michael and Carrie and see what we need to do over there.
Okay.
Other than that, on the water side, it was mostly some of this.
You don't have a budget for that project, do you?
We have budgets for well rehabs. I think we have about 65,000 for the rehab part of it, and then the pump components part of it. We will be looking to probably put a VFD in over at well 2, so we can kind of capitalize some of that stuff, so we don't go through our operating budgets. So it's tricky that we had well 4 go down so early in the year that we had to use quite a bit of our operating funds on the rehab side of it, along with the well 2 stuff, or well 1, excuse me, that we have to repair a bearing over there. So we're just trying to see what's going to fit best with getting through the rest of the year and not trying to blow the operating budget currently. But I think we have 65,000 at our disposal for it, and a lot of that is probably going to be spoken for with well 4 and well 1.
Mhm.
So we'll see what we can do with well 2 to make sure we get everything within budget.
Okay.
For well 4, will that treatment system comply with I guess they're coming out with the standard, or they're proposing it be set at 0?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
We were originally thinking it was gonna be 8 or 10 or something, and now it's.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, yes, it's however they analyze it basically the results came back as non-detect for what they could analyze down to. So, you know, some of our other wells that were above the 4 threshold, barely, I think 5 was, it's kind of the PFOA and the PFOS, it's kind of the 2 big ones they're looking at, where I think well, one was high on one of them, and the other was high on the other one. But
So when he says high, it was like 3.5 and like 4.5?
yeah, so not
But still
like.
not zero.
Yeah, that's
Right.
right, yeah.
But, so what the limits are with the PFOA and the PFOS, which could be at the end of this year or early next, is 4 parts per trillion, 4 parts per trillion for PFOA, 4 parts per trillion for PFOS. And then they get the hazard index of 1 for 4 other PFAS compounds. So well 4 is good, well 6, great. The results for 7 and 8, great. Yep. So, it's probably, the timing of it may work where we need to, with, if 7 and 8 come online, we may be able to then minimize the usage of 1 and 5. So when that time comes, we'll have to make a decision. And we have early sampling now, so I don't know exactly how it's gonna work with, this quarter, I think it was 4.1 something. If next quarter it's under, next quarter it's over, I don't know how they're gonna say you gotta shut it down, you gotta turn it on, you gotta shut it down, or you release like some communities release statements saying you may be consuming PFAS containing water. There's some language that we'll have to determine how we want to handle it should the results come back over the 4 once it's actually put in place.
And is AECOM designing the system to meet
Yeah.
whatever the new standard is?
Basically, it's designed to be 0.
So when you want to repair that well, you're gonna bid it or what?
If the proposals come in high enough, we could.
I think you should.
Yeah, we can look to bid it.
Because
We,
it is, if you got 60-some thousand, say 70,000 or whatever, and the limit is 25,000, so I think you should bid it up.
I know we've had a contract, historically, that's given us good prices and good work. We did bid something a couple years ago for well 2, with not the best results, and kind of left some mess in the well house and some stuff laying around that our operators weren't too keen on, and they took longer than anticipated, and we had more time on Rothschild, so it wasn't warm and fuzzy at the time, so we can bid it and see who would come out. And
Well, it's the law, we got nothing to do with it, we have, 25,000 is the limit, that's what it is to it, so you're over 25,000, you gotta bid it.
The well rehab is classified as a maintenance activity, so it doesn't have to be, but we can.
You can get around the system if you want it at any time, but we know better, that's better than.
Yeah.
All right, when we get to it, we negotiate on that.
we will.
We negotiate, but we make a decision. All right, anything else?
Well, I got nothing else major, I can rip through it. We had some sewer items, there's some float replacements, we did have work at our Ryan Street lift station, that's been going on from last year. They did some bypass pumping overnight to get some new valves put in there, we did get the standby generator set as well at that time. We have our SCADA project was to be bid opening today. That was pushed back. It's the people who took out plans, once they got into it, they realized it's quite a large project and asked for a little extra time. So I think the opening is the 27th.
Is that for what, for,
We have a SCADA fiber optic portion of it, and then we have a complete system-wide getting all of our lift stations and wells onto our SCADA system where we can, it's a mess right now. I get calls for alarms, and some alarms, they don't call, and we switched from, Frontier to TDS, and we lost. It's just, we need to upgrade everything, otherwise, the cost of this would pale in comparison to what some issues we could have should a lift station not call out, and we have backups everywhere, so.
so what's the budget for that?
Budget to be.
3.4, something like that?
I think it was like 1.5 million split between water and sewer.
1.5.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking for those on the 27th. Hopefully have something for you.
So you postpone it or they ask for
The plan holders asked for more time,
more time?
so
Okay.
we said, okay, I'd rather you guys take a little more time and make sure you're giving us a,
They don't do it anyway to the last minute. He sit down in his car in the parking and he,
Yeah.
in the phone and get the number.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think part of it I think initially they thought it was just maybe some new instrumentation or something, and then they start diving into it, seeing that it included, programming, some electrical upgrades, and it was a lot more than maybe just a traditional, revamp of a SCADA system.
okay. So when is the bid opening now?
27th.
27th of this.
Yep,
Yeah.
so we should have something
Well,
for
I
the
think
May
it's-
meeting.
All right. Anything else?
Nothing major, working on a couple, water investigations, with Tommy Wash, some corrosion stuff, working with water quality investigations. Is that what they are? Well, yes, water quality investigations, so we'll be working with that. Then I think that takes it just to our customers added, water pumped, some wastewater flows and lift station hours. That'll do it.
Okay, busy, huh? Policy discussion and recommendation, item 9, 2023 crack sealing project recommendation.
So last week, we opened a bunch of these street maintenance bids. We had 3 bidders for the 2023 crack sealing project, with Precision Seal Coating being the low bid at $82,200. We're, I think, budgeting $80,000, so it's pretty close. And like I said, between all of these, at the end of the day, we're like $1,600 under our total maintenance budget, so.
Okay.
Recommend approving that crack sealing bid.
I'll accept the motion.
I make a motion to approve. Okay, why don't you put it back
Oh,
down
sorry.
where I can read it? Move to recommend the village board award the 2023 crack sealing project to Precision Seal Coating for a total price of $82,200.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Item 10, 2023 GSB-88 project recommendation.
So the GSB 88 is I guess, kind of like a driveway sealer. It's a spray-on application that reinvigorates the asphalt content, so it helps keep the pavement flexible to minimize cracking and kind of, I guess, how do I put it? It provides the protection against the UV, so it doesn't dry out, it doesn't gray out as much. So we had, again, 3 bidders on that one. The low bidder was Farner Asphalt at $87,563. We had budgeted $99,606, so this one came under budget by about $12,000.
Okay, I'll accept the motion on that.
I'll move to recommend village board award the 2023 GSB-88 pavement sealing project of Fire Asphalt Sealers for total bid price of $87,563.16.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Did you second that? Louis?
I did, yes.
Discussion?
Yeah, I guess I'll just add that, so the streets that will be GSB sealing are in the lime green color. So a lot of those are newer pavements, so with this treatment, the goal is to kind of apply it about 3 to 5 years after initial paving, and then to keep applying it at that rate so that you're keeping the new pavements in good condition. This is about a little over $1 a square yard, whereas, an overlay, I think will run you about $9 to $10 a square yard. And then repaving is probably about double that, but 20 or so. So this is one that you can keep applying over and over and keeping the pavements new. And as Dan alluded to, In lieu of chip sealing, we'll be looking at using more of the GSB moving forward since we haven't seen any negative consequences of using this, whereas the chip seal roads, with some of the stripping that we've had this year and in previous years, it works in some applications and other times it doesn't, and haven't been able to find a rhyme or reason there, so.
Okay. Any other question? Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 11, asphalt overlay project recommendation.
Yep, so similarly, we bid out the asphalt overlays. We had two bidders, American Asphalt and RC Pavers. And the total bid price of $293,857 was about $12,770 less than our estimate of $306. So we recommend awarding the project to American Asphalt.
I'll accept the motion on that.
I'll make a motion the village board award the 2023 asphalt overlay project to American Asphalt based on their base bid of $293,857.10.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. Michael, could you show us the map, see how many mile or how many feet you're doing overlay?
Yep, so we're doing this whole neighborhood, the Windermere Oaks neighborhood off of Birch Street. We have Janice Street here. It's a main road used for people that go to Old Castle Glass. It's in pretty rough shape. And we got North Apache and the Estate Drive neighborhood up kind of on the northeast there. And
Is
then-
the North Apache, all the base are good? The
Yeah.
surface are good, no problem?
There's one.
There's that one
There's
spot.
one spot, yeah, there's
That
one spot
is
that's
not good.
pretty bad, but so we'll dig that up.
I think where, if there is a space is not good, some base is not good, they should fix that.
Yep.
Even if it is a small area, let's fix that part of the project, then I think we get a better product.
Because that water flows across that every year. And yeah,
Maybe,
I don't know how you ever fix it.
does it need that covered in there or some ditching at each side of
I
it or
think
what?
there is a culvert in there. Isn't there?
Yeah.
It's that low-lying spot that it's wrecked.
And it's in the shaded area too, so I'm sure the frost action was worse, but we're gonna we'll peel the blacktop off and undercut it and put some base in there. At least do an exploratory on it first, dig a hole, see what we find, and then go from there and figure out how big of an area. But I talked to Forrest about that already. We're not gonna just go over the top of what's there.
Maybe back around or something like that?
If needed, yeah, we'll see what we find. It's a little heavier ground right in that area, you know, it kind of transitions from the sand to the clay there, so.
Even if we take ditching or whatever to drain the water off of it, I think we should. Okay,
And then we got this little piece of Quentin Street past Mock Miller Park where, again, it's in a shaded area and it's pretty raveled pavement there, so fixing that patch, and then we've got a long list of streets to add to next year's project, so.
so have you drive this road already? Drive? Okay,
So that includes grinding down to the base and then putting asphalt over it, or?
In some spots, yes, and other spots we'll just go right over what's there, or what, it's called wedging, so, you know, if there is a cupping, you know, usually you can just put a thin layer in the wheel track, so then you can come through with an equal layer of asphalt over the top of everything.
And that doesn't include there's no like curb fixes or?
If there needs to be, if something's really out of whack, we will, but otherwise, if the curb's fine, we let it be. I know like in the estate area, the curb's higher than the asphalt, and there's some spots there that are pretty funky too with dips and rolls, so we try to get it so that everything is back to the front of the curb so that drainage works again and doesn't sit in the pavement.
There's some curb in, what's it, Warwick, what's the street?
Yeah, okay, yeah, so Windermere
Yeah.
Oaks too, yeah.
We're gonna probably do that in-house. It's probably like a 30-foot stretch by one person's driveway, and we'll take a look at it. If there's some smaller areas, then we'll just do it ourselves.
Yeah, and any inlets that are kind of falling apart, we replace ahead of time, so it should be, it's kind of a nice rejuvenation, I guess, of the street we fix the drainage and the street.
Okay. Any question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 12, 2023 Stonebridge Drive project recommendation.
So we bid out the Stonebridge Drive in 2 phases. The first phase is the concrete work, the curb and gutter primarily. And then the second phase was the paving, so the removal of the existing asphalt and then paving of new. Summers Construction was the low bidder for the concrete. And then American Asphalt was the only bidder for the paving. Then a total project of $879,656 and 95 cents. We had 1.1 million budgeted for this project, so it did come in well under budget, which I guess I'm glad we rebid it this year and deferred it from last year, because last year the prices were pretty outrageous. So you just look at the detailed cost of asphalt, it were about $20 less a ton this year than we were last year. So
The price of asphalt gonna go up because they cut back on their production, OPEC,
yeah.
and that's, as a result, I think the price gonna go up.
Agree up and sign the
Well,
contract.
luckily we got it locked in at this price then.
Well, although still they have it in the contract, if the price change, we come back for it, so.
No, not on these.
No? Okay,
So sad.
question? I'll accept the motion.
I move to award the Phase 1 Stone Ridge Drive project to Summers for a price of $320,394.25. And the Phase 2 Stone Ridge Drive project to American Asphalt for a price of $559,262.70 for a total Stone Ridge Drive project price of $879,656.95.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Michael, for all these projects, they submit to us the certificate of the insurance, and our name is in that certificate of insurance.
Yep, and we also get performance bonds from them too.
For both of them, American also, and,
And Summers, correct.
okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 13. 2023 Escoville Avenue pavement repair from X to municipal street recommendations.
Similarly, we bid this project last week Wednesday. We had 4 bidders with Norcon Corporation being the low bidder at $197,499. If we split that, the actual street cost is $186,299. The other is utility costs for manhole, water valve adjustments, those things. So that one did come in over budget, but over the 135 we had initially estimated, but the other one's coming in under it, I guess, kind of washed out at the end for the entire street maintenance budget. So we'd recommend moving forward with Norcon for $197,499. And that'll go from X to municipal street, essentially taking care of any spot where there's patch material in it right now.
Is that a mile or less than a mile?
It's about a mile, yeah.
Okay.
Looks like 340s, road wiggles a little.
I'll accept the motion.
I move to award the 2023 Schofield Avenue Concrete Repair Project to Norcon Corp. Based on their unit prices on the attached bid tab for an estimated total price of $197,499.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Michael, what happened to X going west?
I
What
guess
are you gonna do there? Because you got a lot of problem there, so.
yeah, so part of that is when we redo it from Normandy to Birch, I guess, part of me'd like to see how far east we can go past Birch Street on that one. So I don't wanna spend too much money, I guess, right now, when some of that might be covered 2 years from now, when we redo that, the rest of that road. Because technically the TIF would go all the way to Camp Phillips Road. So depending on what we have for funding, we can stretch that as far as we want to, or are able to, I guess, or the board would allow at that time.
Still, you gotta do some repairing.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll take care of, anything that we can in-house, we can cut out or mill out some of the joint and pack it with, hot mix. And, it'll hold for a couple of years.
Okay. This summer, right?
Yeah, we'll do that this summer, yeah. Yes. Yeah, we won't leave the holes as is, but, we won't put the 20-year repair in it, we'll put a,
Sooner better.
yeah.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 15, Weston Avenue, Ryan to Conitron J, construction bid result and recommendation.
So we opened the bids for the Ryan Street reconstruction or Weston Ave reconstruction from Ryan to J. Last week, Tuesday, there were 4 total prime bidders on the project. The lowest was Integrity Grading and Excavating, with a bid of $6,713,699.57. I did notice right before the meeting that I had transposed the 7 and the 1 on a couple of those. So if you look at it and yours says 617 instead of 671, it is 6713. So I fixed it for the packet here and I'll have it fixed for the board, but but in total, we are estimating the east phase to be about 8.3 million. So we're $1 million under estimate at this point. We still have the cross-country water and sewer to install next year, which would be part of that 8.3 million. But I think overall, we're still looking to be under budget for the east phase here. So.
Okay, did Integrity and also the rest of the contractor include that schedule with the projects?
I don't know if I have an exact schedule from them yet, but the completion date is October. I believe it's October 20th is the completion date right now.
I think everybody should give you a schedule, everybody, Norcon, everybody gonna work, they should have a schedule.
Yeah, I know they want to get started as soon as possible because it is essentially a 2-mile project, so there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, but we need the schedule and also.
Yeah, they have to provide a schedule with their notice of award, so I just haven't received that yet.
You give them the notice of award.
Correct, yeah, we once you guys, I guess, yeah, move it.
So he should give you a schedule before.
Well, yeah, we'll have a schedule before we sign the contract.
Right.
Yep.
And the insurance, we talked about them, is gonna be provided properly with our name on it.
Yep.
Okay. What's your wishes?
Move to recommend awarding the Weston Avenue, Ryan Street to County J construction contract, Integrity Grading and Excavating for a bid price of $6,713,699.57.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Yes,
Do we have anything in there, if they don't comply? Like, if they go over on the time, or?
We have liquidated
Well,
damages.
yeah, we have liquidated damages in the contract.
With time and materials and that kind of stuff?
Well, so everything's a unit based,
So if they don't do it to our standards.
then we don't accept it.
that's a performance,
They have to do it over.
Yep.
that's a performance bond.
Okay,
If it doesn't follow the spec, then the performance bond comes to the play. But liquid damage,
From a timing standpoint, if they don't get it done when they say they're gonna get it done,
that's the schedule. Yeah.
There's some consequences for that.
Correct, yep.
That'd be your liquidated damages on those.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it doesn't matter what.
Liquid damage is really hard to collect it. But if you do it, say you give them a reward, they finish it early, you penalize them if they finish it late, that's pretty easy to collect.
Right.
Liquid damage, they challenge. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 15, Weston Avenue, Ryan to County Tron. J, engineering service recommendation.
So this is the, I guess, construction services or inspection proposal from AECom for this section. They have a not to exceed amount of $412,839.78. It's roughly 5.6% of the construction cost, which is, I guess, probably lower than what we normally would estimate for construction services on a project.
What's the percentage? 12,
Yeah, I usually figure about 10.
10%? Okay.
So, I mean, they're about half that. Yeah, so I guess I see nothing wrong. It is under, I guess our initial estimate had about 452,000, so it's about $40,000 less than what we initially kind of had estimated. They've got multiple inspectors scheduled for part of the project in anticipation of the contractor having multiple crews on site. So I know, I guess I don't see anything, there's no red flags, I guess, for me on this one. But recommended.
Okay. What's your wish?
I'll move to recommend the village board approve the engineering services agreement with AECom for construction-related services for the reconstruction of Weston Avenue from Ryan Street to County Road J for a price not to exceed $412,839.78.
Is there a second?
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Discussion? Okay, Michael.
Yes.
We need the resume of all the inspector in the project,
Okay.
okay? We don't want somebody in there.
Yeah, so they'll have, they actually have I go through this quick.
Summer intern.
No, they have, Bob Berger, I know is one of the people listed.
Right.
He's their senior, like the high guy, he does a lot of DOT work. And then Dylan Schmenk was, he is the full-time inspector we had for Crestwood Acres. And Brian Weckworth also does a lot of DOT work for them. Those are the three main people they have listed, so.
Just give us the resume.
Yeah, okay.
And then also certificate of insurance.
Yep.
And also we should be on that insurance also.
Correct.
Okay. I'll accept the motion. I think you did.
We did.
I was gonna say it.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Item 16, round number 7 and 8, change order number 4.
So there's three items on this change order. One is a reduction or a credit for some interior check valves that were removed from the project. Then there's a need to install a drop ceiling in the bathrooms for HVAC conditions. And then the main one, or the big part of it, is the DNR required modifications for the stormwater management on the site, which we tried fighting with the DNR on it because we're going from a gravel parking lot to a paved parking lot, they considered the area of the parking lot to be disturbed, which I guess I don't necessarily agree with, but so we had to create additional swales for our TSS treatment to meet DNR requirements. So have a estimated, I guess, time and materials cost not to exceed 23,188 from the contractor to do that work. So net total change order is an increase of 21,589.58.
So this change was due to what we did.
Correct, yep.
It wasn't DNR changing it, we changed the project.
Well, the project always had the parking lot in it. We just didn't think the DNR would consider that to push the project over an acre of disturbance to then require a stormwater management plan and additional, I guess, treatment on site.
Well, I look at the change order, has had all the cost in there with the quantity, but didn't give us the unit price.
For the earthwork?
Right, there is no unit price in there.
Yeah, I'd asked them to give me we'll get a unit for, I guess, all their labor beforehand. They're not gonna do I guess before they do the work, I want the labor costs, material costs, equipment costs in hand.
I think they should give it to us before we give a contract, or we give a change order.
Sure.
Because you signed that contract, that's it. You're accepting what he submit to you.
Yep.
So you should provide that, what you need in there, all the unit price, and also, see, you got all these costs, estimated quantity.
Yep.
And then total price 21,000 something,
Sure.
but there is unit price is all empty. So.
Okay.
All right. I'd like to see we approve that subject to submitting those information. Unit cost plus labor cost, and because if there's change order during the project, if you got the labor cost, it make it easy really to go along with it.
Yep.
I'll accept the motion on that project, on that change order.
If we're gonna wait for the unit prices, can we? Don't
We can approve it subject to providing that information. So it doesn't provide that motion is,
Okay, then I'll move to recommend village board approve change order number 4 for an increase in the construction contract of $21,589.58, subject to receiving the unit price information for a new construction contract amount of $3,349,395.
I'll second. I'll second.
Barb?
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
No, that's good. I just didn't want it to lag.
Yeah.
other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it, thank you. Item 17, 2022 municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4 annual report.
I guess attached here is our annual stormwater report that is submitted to the DNR. And had I known I was gonna have half an hour of time, I could have put a bigger presentation together. But probably have that coming up in a meeting or two. Strand did finish our total maximum daily load study that was submitted to the DNR for what we're gonna need to do to get the village into compliance with the phosphorus limits for the Wisconsin River. It includes a couple, I guess, larger projects that we could look at undertaking. One is a storm pond over by Business 51 and the Highway 29 interchange. We have a large 60-inch storm sewer that comes under Hughes Avenue that eventually discharges straight into the Wisconsin River. So if we were able to partner with Rothschild and the DOT to put a pond in there, we could get a fair amount of treatment for all the water upstream of that. Just north of here, we have a large, I think that one's a 72-inch pipe, essentially an Eau Claire Ave extended, that discharges to the Eau Claire River. So we'll be looking at putting a pond in, kind of just on the north side of the railroad, or what used to be the railroad tracks. Here, again, that'd be another larger project, and you get credit then for treating all the stormwater upstream of that, which is pretty much from Birch Street over to Von Kennel and then Schofield Ave this way. So there's a few projects there. We do meet the suspended solids requirements, but we don't meet the phosphorus removal. So that shows up in there. And we partner as part of the North Central Wisconsin Stormwater Coalition to do education and outreach activities around the area about municipal stormwater. I try to make sure we talk about that when we have our public information meetings and let people know why we put ditches in or why we can't just curb and gutter everything. We do have water quality regulations we have to follow that DNR holds us to, even when we try to put in a well. We have certain outfalls that we check on a regular basis. We look for illicit discharges, so that's things that people shouldn't be putting down the storm sewer, whether it be oil, paint, drywall, waste. Those are usually the ones that we find that people are dumping where they shouldn't. So we take care of those. Roman and our building inspectors, they take care of our construction site inspection. So when they're out there doing a footing inspection or something with the plumbing, they do a perimeter check to make sure that sediment isn't washing off the site or getting into our waterways. So we have to keep track of how many inspections we're doing, how many times we give somebody a warning. You'll notice here we had 22 verbal warnings, 2 written warnings last year for developers or contractors that weren't keeping their sites in a neat order.
So we are partnering with the DOT. They usually have their own DNR staff, or they work with a specific person to make the project go faster. Is that the same, or
As far as
getting approval from DNR
for
that stormwater?
So for that pond, we're still talking to them. That's part of our Business 51 discussions with them. You remember? They sent an email Thursday trying to schedule our next meeting, which looks like it'll probably be next week sometime. I guess our hope is that they will, work with us to get that put in place, because we've got one state agency telling you have to do these things, and it'd be nice if the other state agency would say we can help you with that or meet those goals. So.
But DOT got something going on with DNR to get the project through, please.
Yeah, so the DOT is actually exempt from a lot of the DNR requirements.
Right.
Unfortunately, like Weston Avenue, I'm gonna make a long story short. We were having issues on Weston Avenue going through the wetlands because we had DNR stormwater saying you have to do all this. And we had DNR wetlands saying, don't disturb wetlands. But we had stormwater guys saying you have to disturb the wetlands because you gotta put in all the treatment. Eventually, we finally got the DNR's stormwater and wetland people to talk to each other. But my understanding is the DOT doesn't actually have to do any of that because they are exempt under their transportation rights. So that's one thing that holds some of our projects up, is getting that permitting done, but this was a state road that they wouldn't have that obstacle. So.
Okay. So are you gonna submit this to DNR?
Yeah, so it was submitted.
It was submitted?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the report is required to be submitted every March 31st of every year. So.
All right. Any question for Mike? None?
I guess the main item is whether we're street sweeping or cleaning out ponds. It's not because we just want to do it. It's we have to do it, or we're required to do it. So.
Okay. Future item 18.
No, we have to do a
We need to
recommendation.
acknowledge.
I'm sorry?
I think we need to acknowledge.
Yeah.
You have to acknowledge that?
Yeah, if you can
All right.
acknowledge it.
I recommend acknowledgement of the 2022 Village of Weston Municipal Separate Stormwater System MS4 report.
There's a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Future item, next meeting date, Monday, April 10th, 2023 at 4:30 PM.
That's today.
That's today, yeah, but why we have it there?
Sorry.
All right. Why we have Wednesday, 26th at 6 PM?
That would be that special assessment meeting for Weston Avenue.
Okay. And Monday, May 8th, 2023 at 4:30 PM, that's a regular meeting.
And there is an open house for this building scheduled on Saturday, May 13th.
Right.
If you wanna come and attend that, or if you want a tour of the building outside of that time, just let me know and give you a tour. I think Tom took his today, so.
All right. Topic for future meeting, anything?
I have one, if I could. I was reading in the paper that they came up with this huge amount of money. Wausau already got apparently 1.6 million for their PFAS treatment system. And now there's a big pool of money available for PFAS treatment. Does that apply retroactively?
So, yeah, so we've been in contact with the DNR. We'll be applying for a safe drinking water loan as part of our well 3 and 4 project. Those are due in June. And any work that we've been doing on well 4 with the temporary treatment, we've been keeping track of because they said you might, it may be eligible for retroactive funding.
Yeah, that's
So,
exactly what I was wondering about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are tracking it. Okay, good. That's what I was hoping.
correct, yeah.
Oh.
No, and last year we had applied for similar funding that the city of Wausau had. And we were not awarded at that point. I don't know if it was just because we were only working on a temporary system instead of a permanent system, so we're hoping this year we get funding for the permanent system.
So we may in effect recover that, I mean, because that was that 800,000 or something there? I forget.
That's like 400 or
400, yeah. Okay.
Anything else? Did you want that on the agenda for next meeting?
I don't know that I need it on the agenda. I missed asking it earlier and
Okay. All right.
and if your answer would have been no, then I would have made it a topic for that.
Yeah, no, it's part of the perf.
Item 20, remark from administrator, he is not here. Item 21, remark from staff. Josh?
I suppose, I guess with the PFAS discussions, I failed to mention, we are in communications with EPA. They're selecting a few communities throughout the state, or the country, I should say, where they're basically asking us to collect samples. They'll be providing all the samples. We just have to collect them and turn them in so they can, it's kind of a technical project where we may, we'll have some EPA engineers at our disposal for questions when we get rolling on some of this stuff. So we met with them last week with our operators, and I need to follow up with some additional information they requested. So we have the DNR in the room with us, well, virtually in the room with us with the EPA. So just to get some more information on, they're looking for systems that are ready to get some temporary treatment online and systems that were just online like ours. So we did meet with them, and I guess we'll see what happens when we start sampling, and if it turns into some, maybe we get some additional funding or a little bit moved up the list a little bit perhaps, so.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Michael?
Yeah, no. I think I'm good.
Okay.
Throat's starting to hurt.
Not unless you have questions on it.
Okay. Thank you. Remarks from committee members? Those?
The only thing I was gonna mention, and I'm sure this maybe came up to staff since last week, but I just hope that there might be some conversation about the best way to flow traffic here for elections. I was quite frustrated when I came here. I thought I came at a time where nobody would be here, and it was relatively busy, but it was really hard trying to back out of these parking stalls when there was a good flow of traffic coming in. And I don't know if we need to look at going to one-way traffic or what we need to do, but I just anticipate that for a larger election like the presidential one, it's gonna be quite a big of a mess.
There's a discussion going on.
Right.
To see what's the best way to handle this. And so I'm sure everybody has a different idea, and they're gonna use the best one, which is gonna suit the purpose. I think direction, probably one thing, maybe additional parking, another thing, and everybody got a different idea, so we'll see.
I'm glad we had this type of election now to test it out with instead of a presidential one right away, because, yeah, but that's all.
Thank you. Tom?
Yep.
Okay, I don't have anything.
Just a question quick for Luis. So the biggest thing, it seemed to be the problem is people were pulling in and parking, and the other people would come in, but then they would stop, and when these are backing out, it seemed like a lot of them didn't want to go down to this farther parking lot and park. They would sit and wait for somebody to back out instead. Is that what you found?
Well, so when I pulled in, just from my experience, when I pulled in, the first spot was open. So I was like, oh, I'll park there. Well, I wish I had it because then all the traffic trying to come into this little loop, like there were so many cars waiting to try to get further into the lot that I just couldn't back out. So I sat here for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes waiting to back out, which I had nowhere to be. But yeah, I think people come in and they just look for the immediate parking spots, and there's obviously a big lot over there. So that's what I like started to think to myself, like, would it be easier to have traffic coming in that way? So they're making use of that big lot right away and then coming out. But I don't know, I'm not a traffic engineer.
It was bottlenecked here and I drove through there were probably 15 spots open, down there. It was just nobody wanted to keep going, is the problem.
Yeah, we had bid openings up in the room right above, and that was the biggest thing. So, yeah, trying to find a new way to route it, because you'd look and be like, wow, there's a lot of openings, but everyone's trying to get
Into staying right up in here,
Yeah.
they didn't want to keep going, is the problem.
And I think the thing is, if it's elderly people, you don't want to make them drive and park as far away either if you don't have to, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of what I seem to see. They would wait, which is understandable.
And people are getting dropped off that clogs up that lane because of the handicap ramps right here. And people couldn't get around them.
We can create more handicap parking.
Put 'em right there.
You know.
Please. Yes,
Very good.
thank you. I'm sorry. Anything else? Yeah, it is an ongoing discussion, so. All right, I don't have any announcement. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This meeting adjourned, thank you.